Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to
Hi.
another episode here of our Port Haven StreamCast. We are excited today. We have what we hope is a fun topic for you. Um,
Yes.
we are both very excited for Avengers: Infinity War, which either comes out today, tomorrow, or has already come out, depending on where you are in the world.
And
Um,
where we live, it has not come out yet. So don't say anything if you've
yeah.
seen it.
Yeah, so if you want to know a really good way to never be allowed on our streams again, it
If
would
you
be
want to
to
know,
to
if you want to
spoil
know,
this.
if you really want to know a good way to never be alive again, it would be to spoil us.
But we are here with you. We want to talk about some Avengers and Star Wars stuff with you today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but before we do that, we had,
Oh yeah.
as
Breaking
always
so there's
happens, breaking
on the
news right
stream.
before the
There was
stream.
breaking news right before the stream. Star Wars really likes to announce things on Thursday, which usually wouldn't be a problem, except for we really want to take advantage of the Avengers premiere today, so we wanted to keep on topic. But I'm going to talk about real quickly. They announced the new Star Wars animated series. So
Woohoo!
if you followed all Star Wars Rebels, which was a 4-season long show, just wrapped up earlier this year, and they announced Star Wars Resistance, which is going to be a quote anime style, though I'm not sure if that means like Western anime, like Last Airbender, or anime, show set just before The Force Awakens or leading up to The Force Awakens. It's going to involve Resistance pilots. Poe Dameron and Captain Phasma and the like are going to make appearances. I'm pretty excited about the news. Dave Filoni, who was the head of, he was the supervising director on Star Wars: The Clone Wars and then Star Wars Rebels, has kept to it. It does not surprise me that we're getting the animation style that we did, because Dave Filoni also worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he's very into that and even like actual anime style animation.
Right.
Also, I'm sure 2D animation is just cheaper than making a 3D animated show once a week. Maybe this means we'll get more episodes in a season, because that would be nice.
Maybe so.
But very excited. We will cover this more in depth, but we're going to keep to this topic at hand today.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts, and we will share them with you. You know that we both are very much into the Star Wars animated TV shows. And so we will definitely have a whole lot to say about this.
I'm sure you can expect more commentaries in the fall,
yeah,
too.
I was just thinking about that as we were getting ready for the stream. I'm already excited to do more commentaries.
I'm gonna throw a fit. Throwing a fit.
But because it's so new, we thought we would just stick with what we already had planned today, because that's kind of timely as well. So you can expect a lot more content for Star Wars Resistance in the future. But today we wanted to talk about some Avengers like things, and imagine what the world might be like if Avengers characters were in the Star Wars universe, and what maybe Star Wars characters might look like in the Avengers universe, and things like that.
And let me just say, there's a lot of them, because when I went to make this thumb, I was like, okay, who should go on the thumb? And I was like, I got through like 10 characters, and I went, crap, I don't have the Guardians of the Galaxy yet. Like, what am I doing with this?
Yeah, I was watching this. I guess it was. I don't think it was recent, but it was like a press junket for the film, and Jeff Goldblum was hosting it,
Yes.
and they had like these risers that had like all 4,000 of the characters in the movie sitting up there, and he had like a bingo machine, and it had like little balls that would come out that either had characters' names on it, or it would have like categories, and it's like characters that are green. And so he would pull a little ball, and then the press would get to ask a question to whoever's name he had drawn at random, because there are so many of them.
Jeff Goldblum in the Marvel Universe is pretty good. I would love for Jeff Goldblum to now come to the Star Wars universe in some way.
Yeah. But
in the Snoke origin film, we'll have Jeff Goldblum.
Right. He can be Ezra all grown up. Because that's actually really good. Like that's
I know you said that as a joke, but that's amazing. Jeff Goldblum is old crazy Ezra after flying with the space whales. Oh my god.
Yeah, that may be the best idea I've had in a while. Which is saying
We're putting
something.
that one on the Twitter.
But so where do you want to start with this? So there are so many characters. Like the easy one for me. So I'll go with this one first because I feel like this is the easy one. The easy one for me is I feel like if Iron Man were in the Star Wars universe, Iron Man would be a Mandalorian. Like that just feels right to me, you know, with the whole like suit of armor and I've got a jetpack and a helmet type thing. Like that just feels right to me for Iron Man to be a Mandalorian soldier or mercenary of some sort. That doesn't really fit with the Tony Stark character, so I don't know like where that would go.
I think that could be interesting though, because like it would work, but he would have to be like the rebel, well not rebel, but like he'd be the guy who's like all about the Mandalorian armor but not about the Mandalorian culture, and he's like gonna be cool and go off and be a bounty hunter or something.
Right.
Like that I could see. I think that'd be kind of funny. Like if you take like Sabine's story and then instead of running away because of shame, he runs away because those people aren't cool enough.
Right.
It'd be kind of like that.
Which is hard to be cool enough for Sabine or Tony Stark.
That's true.
But yeah, so I just thought for me that's kind of the most obvious one. And again, I guess a lot of it is the aesthetic more than the character really. But
see, I can see like Bucky Barnes / Winter Soldier kind of going down like the Finn route.
Right.
Like the stormtrooper who was, you know, mind programmed and somebody snaps him out of it and he has to like decide who he is and that kind of thing. I could see that going really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea too. I really, this is a different kind of thing too. I hope Bucky has a big role in this too, because I think it would be a letdown.
He deserves it at this point. I mean, he was basically the catalyst of Civil War.
Yeah.
I think Falcon would be the Millennium Falcon. I think that's pretty fair. He would be the ship. He would be a talking ship. Has a lot of attitude.
Equally as important, yet sort of not important. Like you just kind of.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
He literally carries the rest of the characters around sometimes.
Yep.
Like I was watching Winter Soldier the other night.
Yeah.
In preparation to go see the Avengers, and you know, and Cap jumps off the helicarrier and he's like, "Sam, I need a ride." And so like he's literally the thing that they fly around on. No, I like that.
Would that make Captain America like Han Solo though?
Well, see, for me, I don't know. With Cap as like principled and order bound as Cap is. For me, Captain America is Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like he is the Obi-Wan of the Avengers.
Right.
He's the guy who actually fits with the moral guidelines. But like he fits with the moral guidelines, but then sometimes makes exceptions for his friends, right? So like he kept it from Tony for a long time. I'm assuming that everyone has seen every Marvel movie except for Infinity War. So be warned, I'm gonna like say a lot of things about stuff, but Civil War has been out for a while.
Yeah.
Cap kept from Tony for a long time that Bucky killed his parents. So I think, and that kind of fits with like Obi-Wan knowing what was up with Anakin, but not really doing anything about it, because I really got the vibe in Revenge of the Sith, but like especially from the Clone Wars, certain episodes of the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan knows what's going on.
Right.
So I think Cap as Obi-Wan really, really fits, and like the lengths he'll go to help people.
Well, if Cap is Obi-Wan, then who is that Anakin Vader role then? Because does it have to be somebody that is that close? Because you know, Bucky to a certain extent would fit.
He would fit, especially with the dark to back to good kind of arc. I don't know. Does Marvel really have or the MCU specifically, do they
Mm.
have a fall from grace kind of character? I don't think they do.
I mean, unless you want to think of like Loki that way, um,
Right.
which again doesn't really fit. At least not exactly. Um,
Right. Loki would be really interesting in the Star Wars universe.
no,
Like, I feel like he would be like, what's the equivalent of tricksters? Like, he'd almost be like a shapeshifter, like Zam.
right, sure, yeah,
I
it's
feel like I feel like he wouldn't really be a Sith Lord in the order of Sith that we see in the movies. But did you ever read the Knight Errant comics or novel by John Jackson
I
Miller?
know of them, but
So
I've got the novel somewhere, but I haven't read it.
the novel's fantastic. So it's Legends canon now, but if we can cheat and use Legends canon,
Of course,
it's obviously it would have to be before Darth Bane because it's before the Rule of Two, but it's well after the Knights of the Old Republic games. And there's these Sith, and they're all nuts. Like it's not like, man, they're so crazy, but I mean like they're all like actually nuts, and it's great. There's this one Sith who like thinks he's actually God and created the universe.
oh wow,
There's another one that wants to destroy everything because he thinks it's his destiny to bring death to all. And then they have like this sister who's like super manipulative and stuff. It's really crazy, but I feel like Loki would fit in with that family
right,
really well.
yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. It's hard to think of Loki as not a Force user,
Right, yeah, exactly.
but yeah, but he doesn't really fit kind of again those sort of broad strokes of Jedi and Sith.
Yeah, there's really
That we
no
kinda know.
trickster god equivalent currently.
Yeah,
Currently.
yeah, that we know of. Yeah. Maybe he could be like the sun, like the Mortis,
Right, yeah,
the
yeah,
Mortis
yeah.
gods.
I could see that from Mortis. They're kind of both that crazy.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't know that Thor is daughter, but I could see Odin as father. That kind of fits.
For sure.
Um,
I mean, Thor has the hair to be daughter.
yeah, that's
At least in Thor 1 and 2.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mostly forget
Thor-
about Thor 1 and 2, but
I mostly try to forget about the eyebrows in Thor 1 when they decided to dye them blonde for no reason and it looked weird.
oh yeah.
Thor in Star Wars, again, I mean, just because by the nature of like them being gods, I want to say they'd have force powers.
Yeah.
As opposed to not, but like what would Thor be?
Maybe something. See, well, go with me down this road for a minute and see
All
what
right.
you think about this, because I was kind of pondering this and I was trying to think about where Thor would fit in, and my thought was that Thor is Bendu,
Okay.
because like storm elements kind of thing, but also
Yes.
force-ish. Like it's not a fit, but I don't really know. Like I was trying to think of something that is.
He's the one in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, Thor kind of is in a way.
Yeah.
I feel like well, let's go to Guardians for a bit, yeah? Like
Oh sure. Yeah. Okay.
the easy connection would be Groot to Chewbacca.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
See, and Peter Quill to Han Solo kind of fits too.
Again, kind of fits, yeah.
And maybe
well,
Rocket
a lot
is Lando.
of it fits. Yeah. But I mean, Gamora would fit as Leia. But I mean, a lot of people have described Guardians of the Galaxy as being like Marvel Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that kind of fits.
Hulk is interesting.
That would make Yondu like whoever Woody Harrelson's character is in Solo.
Right, yeah. I'm just calling him Woody. I know he has a name, but I can never remember.
Yeah.
Knox says Thor is definitely Palpatine with all that unlimited power. That's not wrong. It's not wrong. By the way, hi everybody.
Yeah, we haven't been.
You're having a very nice conversation about SpongeBob, so I was just kind of letting you guys go.
I wasn't even paying attention. Yeah, so if you're following the chat, we're talking about like who would the Star Wars equivalents of different Avengers characters be, or like
Right.
what would they do if they were in Star Wars? If you have thoughts, feel free to shout them
To
out.
offer them up, just shout them out. I think when you get to characters like Hawkeye and Black Widow, it's a little bit easier because they don't have, you know, the superpowers, right? So, I could see like Black Widow. I mean, she to me, Black Widow would be an ISB agent,
Right.
Imperial Security Bureau.
See, I was thinking about Iden Versio.
Oh yeah,
From,
yeah.
Inferno
BF2.
Squad and Battlefront 2.
Yep.
That was kind of my thought there.
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Fits her quite well. And then, I mean, similarly, I feel like Hawkeye would end up in the Hawkeye would almost be like a Cassian.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
You know, he's a good dude that sometimes does not good dude things, but he's more of a good dude than a not.
Right.
Kind of a thing. You know what Star Wars character is most like Loki, but has no powers is Krennic.
Yeah, I can see that.
They're both very dramatic. They both have mad cape games.
Sure. And then Thor would definitely be Tarkin in that scenario.
In that scenario, yeah, like 100%.
Like very similar, but also more popular.
Yeah.
Wins out in the end.
Somehow always gets the upper hand.
Another really easy one that I thought about was Nick Fury as Mace Windu.
Well, yeah. I can't imagine why.
I don't know why that one came to mind.
Oh man.
Sarge wants to know if Krennic is as hot as Loki is.
Well, it depends on who you ask. Because if you ask me, I would say yes. But I might be the only person. I have a silver fox thing for Krennic.
I feel unqualified to answer that question.
But most of the internet would say Loki is definitively hotter.
Well, probably. I remember this is a completely different thing that I'll just go through really quickly. When I saw Thor 2 in theaters, like the one memory that I have that's worthwhile of that whole movie is that when Loki dies in that film, there's these like row of like 11-year-old girls behind me that are just sobbing, like loud wailing weeps. And
Loki's army.
And I was like, number one, be quiet. This is a theater, please. Number two, he's obviously not going to be dead. They're not going to murder their cash cow here.
Right.
But like the studio understands this is what you came here to see. So don't worry about that. Sarge was upset too. Yeah, but
I mean, I remember being shocked for like 30 seconds, and then I went, "Wait, it's Loki. He's totes not dead." Yeah. But like for that 30 seconds, I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, well, I've read comic books for a long enough time that I know nobody's ever really dead.
Truly dead.
Yeah, everybody can come.
No
back.
one's ever really gone.
Yeah.
We had who said it? I can't remember. I saw a relevant comment though. Voltix said, "I feel like Hulk would be some species of Rancor." That's pretty. Like I could see a sentient Rancor would be like really scary.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying.
Yep. He could even be like if I can go back to Legends for a second. You remember Durg, the bounty hunter from the 2D Clone Wars series? Yeah. Who Cad Bane was supposed to be, but they couldn't figure out how to animate Durg.
Right.
But Durg had like this, I might be saying his name wrong, but he had like this really awesome, not quite Mandalorian armor. Not quite Mandalorian armor, but still cool looking armor. But then like at the end, he like, his armor like fell off and he became like this giant blob monster.
Yeah. I remember that. I'm a big fan
And
of this.
Steven,
TV
I would
show.
never call you irrelevant. You just operate on a plane that most of us can't understand.
He's in the world between worlds.
He is.
Another easy one for me is Ultron as General Grievous.
Okay. Yep. Totally makes sense.
I mean, not just because robots, but also I just feel like those personalities kind of fit.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, because
they both kind of have a maker complex.
Right. And ultimately, I don't think either one of them is pure evil in that sense either.
Right.
I mean, they both have distorted versions of what they think is better.
Right.
That we see as evil, but I don't think they... It's not like Palpatine, I am evil for the sake of evil.
Right. I'm trying to think I'm trying to think which villain would be closest to Count Dooku.
I don't know. I was trying to think about that too.
I can't remember his name, but the villain of the villain of Winter Soldier, played by
like the secretary guy.
Yeah.
Secretary Pierce, I think was his
Secretary
name.
Pierce, played by the single most famous Robert Redford. I was like,
Redford,
how could I not remember Robert Redford's name?
Yes.
But it's I feel like they're kind of similar. Yeah, like they're both from quote unquote the good guys that have become corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
So their ideology behind it isn't inherently wrong.
Right.
They're not necessarily out for... I mean, they have no problem with mass murder, but it's not about mass murder for the sake of mass murder. It's about murder for the sake of culling the herd, really.
Sure. To that end, does that kind of make... I'm thinking about Hydra now. Does that make Red Skull Darth Maul?
It's not off. It's not far off. Especially when you get to Clone Wars Darth Maul.
Yeah. Especially when I'm thinking about how... because I just watched this movie the other day too. Mm-hmm. How part of Red Skull's thing is that... Oh, what's the name of the scientist that made the serum? I don't remember.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, but he's...
I don't remember his real name.
But he was like, yeah, I was his first choice, and now he went for somebody else. And so, like, part of Maul's thing is that he gets discarded. So when it doesn't work out the way it's supposed to.
Maul likes to look for crazy artifacts, too.
Yeah.
Because, I feel like Infinity Stones would be some kind of something. Like, they could be holocrons, they could be kyber crystals.
Sure. I mean, does that mean that... I mean, is this too easy, but is Palpatine Thanos? Like, is that... I mean, because it feels like that's what it would be, but that also doesn't feel like the best match to me.
I mean, Thanos almost feels like a Bane to me.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, right? Maybe if he's an emperor, more like the emperor from the Tor days.
Yeah, maybe so.
But no, I mean, like, equivalency-wise, yeah, but I don't know that the I guess I don't know Thanos' personality super well.
That's
but
true.
I mean, like, Thanos took Gamora and Nova, right? Is Gillian's character name?
Yeah.
No, he's not the scheming, backstabbing type.
I mean,
like,
it's power hungry,
people
though.
with these minions. Yeah.
Like, that's where it doesn't quite... I mean, so does that make Thanos Vader then?
But I mean, Thanos did send Loki in Avengers 1. Like, we clearly know Loki's working for Thanos at that point.
Yeah. And Thanos tried to use what was his name? Ronan the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy. In that kind of way too.
What about Doctor Strange? How would he be the world between worlds?
I don't know. I was thinking when you were talking about who would be Count Dooku, I was thinking that the bad guy in Doctor Strange, whose name I can't remember right now, might be a good
Oh
kind of
yeah,
Dooku.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
I can remember all the actors' names. Mads Mikkelsen, who is also in Star Wars.
Yeah. But I thought
As a
that
very
might be
different
an
character.
yeah, well, definitely, yeah, because he's not Galen Erso.
He's not a bad guy.
Right, but
in Rogue One.
I thought that might be like an interesting kind of corollary, and that almost makes part of my problem with Doctor Strange is that Stephen Strange early movie is very different than Stephen Strange into the movie. And so, like, I don't know how to square, because I almost thought about Qui-Gon for Doctor Strange.
Right.
But I don't know, it doesn't feel like a good enough fit for me.
To that point, though, I'll tell you, I just thought of who would be Count Dooku is, I can never say his name. I always want to call him Mordor. Mordo. Frick, how do you say his name? Chiwetel Ejiofor's character. Yeah. Who was like the good guy. He was a good guy with Strange, who was super about order, super about doing things the right way. And like, I mean, Count Dooku's lightsaber style is like the old school fencing style that no one uses anymore, because it's the elegant style, right?
Right.
And then and he keeps walking around with the bill comes due, and then at the end he's like, no more
magic.
Was it no more magic, no more wizards?
Yeah.
And that, to me, I feel like he would fit pretty good as a Count Dooku.
Yeah, I can buy that.
Especially if you were looking at Strange as being kind of like a Qui-Gon.
Yeah. With kind of like a Kreia element in there too, of wanting to do away with the thing that gives them their power.
Yeah.
Another one I thought of, and this is jumping around a bit again too, is Broom Boy as Peter Parker. Especially, I was thinking about this earlier, because in Civil War, Peter Parker hasn't seen The Empire Strikes Back, and so I'm like, you don't get to be anybody, Peter Parker. You don't know what you're talking about. So here's somebody important but not important.
I was thinking of Spider-Man as being Ezra.
See, I can see that too.
He's like the kid that gets dragged around. Yeah. He's like that kid that everyone keeps around that has powers, but it's like, oh, but you're a kid.
Yeah. Who else are we missing? Is there a Black Panther matchup?
Let's see. King of a people, like a warrior king. It's a good question. Is there a warrior king? Star Wars doesn't have a whole lot of kings.
Right. Unless you think about like Bail Organa or something.
Yeah. It's not too far off. I was thinking briefly to sidetrack from that is I could see Scarlet Witch as Ahsoka.
Sure, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got me thinking. What's the Black Panther equivalent? Because there's not a lot of kings in Star Wars,
right?
And most of the ones that are villains.
Sure. Like Count Dooku.
Bear, our friend Bear says that we can do whatever we want as long as he gets to be Green Lantern.
I could recite basically every Green Lantern oath for you right now if you wanted. But
I've been trying to tell them that you're like a huge DC fan, even though you're on a Star Wars channel.
Yep.
Bear also says technically Spider-Man is one of the most powerful characters in Marvel. Ezra is technically one of the most powerful characters in canon, which is another part of Ezra that annoys me.
This is true. What about Thrawn? I see the Thrawn novel behind you. And it made me think about that. So, like, who is there a Thrawn, somebody that's both like strategic, but
I'll tell
like
you who,
outsider?
But I hate myself for saying it because it's from it's a character I hate in the MCU with a passion, but maybe the real Mandarin.
Yeah. Okay. I could kind of see that. Yeah.
Kind of that, I'm going to play up, I'm going to distract you with this other thing and then really be this thing. I mean, obviously, like, Thrawn never pretends to be someone else, but he's really good at sending you off in the wrong direction.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, I know how much you dislike that part of Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3. It's not even the plot twist that bothers me, because the plot twist is pretty good. It's that you take Ben Kingsley, who's an actor I adore, and make him a red herring, and then you take Guy Pearce, who's an actor I can't stand, and make him important. Like that, I'm not. It's purely that emotional level that bothers me about that movie.
Is there another? I guess we haven't talked about Ant-Man at all. Is there like a Paul Rudd equivalent in Star Wars?
Let's see, an Ant-Man equivalent. I was trying to think of that too, because he's kind of like a heisty character.
Yeah, I was thinking. I'll tell you who I thought, and this is bad because of how much I thought the Ant-Man movie was kind of meh. But I thought you could think of. I'm blanking on characters' names today. I'm all actors. But if you think about older Ant-Man and younger Ant-Man as being Jango and Boba Fett.
Okay. Kind of, though,
yeah.
in terms of how their dynamic works. The kind of thieves with honor sort of thing.
Right.
With that...
Trying to read the chat.
Yeah. And I found the first thing that, like, Sarge and I have ever disagreed on. I love Ant-Man. I can't wait for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I thought that movie was great.
See, I'm looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I was not a huge... I mean, I didn't loathe Ant-Man the way that Sarge does, but it's probably toward the bottom just because it didn't do a whole lot for me.
That's fair. I mean, it's very much, it's like on its own kind of thing.
My bottom spot is miles below every other movie on the list, but that's just me too.
But yeah, Ant-Man's an interesting one, even though it's funny that one's so hard to place, because I feel like there's a lot of scoundrels and thieves in Star Wars, but there's not a lot of scoundrels and thieves that are like in that same vein of like actually kind of a good guy. I mean, unless you go to like Han or Lando.
Yeah.
But he's not like suave or charismatic like them. We did do Nick Fury. We did Nick Fury as Mace Windu for reasons unknown. And Black Widow, I thought, would be an Imperial Security Bureau agent.
If Black Widow had superpowers, the easy one would be Mara Jade, but that.
Or Asajj Ventress.
Yeah, I could see that too. I'm trying
Ventress is a very compelling character.
to look around at all the movies on my shelf and see what works and what I'm.
Well, while we're thinking about that, we're a little over the halfway point. Why don't we go other direction? What about Star Wars characters? Maybe not as specific Avengers, but like how would their abilities in Star Wars translate into a real world superhero?
Yeah, the hard thing with that for me is that Force powers, even though they're different for a lot of characters, they're kind of like uniform.
Right.
And so it's hard to like differentiate. I mean, that's one thing that makes superheroes interesting in a different way, is that every superhero kind of has different powers and weaknesses.
Right.
So I don't know. It's kind of difficult. I would almost see, this is a different Marvel thing, but I almost see the Jedi and the Sith in the Marvel universe as X-Men, where you have like Magneto, and is kind of like a Sith character with his Force users. I don't know, but that feels
Mhm.
like more analogous to me than something in the mainline MCU.
Right. Well, yeah, and like, because basically all of the Jedi would be telepaths and telekinetics. Yeah.
Oh, silly
Save my
Lobot.
game. Wrong stream.
If only I had forgot to
Um,
disable that ahead of
yeah,
time.
I would say so. I think for this it's fair because Sarge, because yeah, with the Jedi it's kind of like one size fits all. They'd all be some kind of telekinetic, some kind of X-Men, if you will.
Yeah.
But
I mean, because that's
but I
like
don't.
similar enough in its explanation,
Mhm.
but allows for some variety. But that's also like less interesting to me too. So I don't know
Well,
how to
what
do
about
that.
this though? What if their powers? So Jedi have such wide array of powers. What if we went through a list of Jedi or a list of Sith? If they had like one power that wasn't Force powers, what would it be? You know, like say take Yoda
Mm-hmm.
for example. Would Yoda keep superior agility from his size?
See, to me, I think Yoda would be more of almost like a Professor X kind of like mind
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, because like Yoda has those other abilities, particularly in combat. But for me, Yoda has always been about like the wisdom and insight.
Right.
Um,
He could even be like an ancient one out of
sure.
Doctor Strange's order.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Um, and I guess like if this is a really bad analogy, but like Palpatine's thing is like lightning. So like
Mm-hmm.
almost like a storm kind of thing. Like I don't like that
Right.
doesn't fit, but that's definitely like his.
His MO.
Yeah.
Or like I feel like, or you know, you could even have some of the Star Wars heroes that don't have powers. Like so, like Poe Dameron, I could see him being like a Falcon.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I think he'd rather have a Falcon suit than say an Iron Man suit. I think he'd like to have wings.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Um,
You know, we really didn't do a lot of sequel trilogy stuff. It's funny when we do these kind of things. I always blank on sequel trilogy stuff, and it's not because I don't like the sequel trilogy, because I really do. It's just like it's so new to me.
well, and for me, it's incomplete too. So like,
Yeah,
I don't know Kylo's whole story yet to be able to like cast him
right
as a
where he
thing.
would go. Yeah, um, and how he'd fit in. Yeah, because that's the thing. Is I've had a fair number of ideas of like how Marvel would fit into Star Wars, but it's been I was thinking about it over the week and I had a really hard time thinking of how Star Wars would fit because it's really just adapting that Star Wars universe to Earth, which is really hard.
Yeah.
She's not Superman, Docs, because she doesn't have kryptonite. Sorry.
Yeah, and Luke as Iron Man doesn't work for me just because Luke definitely, even at his best, you know, until he grows up to be, you know, the person we see him in the sequel trilogy, is like so like dominated by that like hopefulness and almost naivete, and I don't think Tony Stark
he's almost more Captain
has
America.
that. Yeah, yeah, I definitely think that's more along those lines.
I mean, unless we're talking expand like Legends Luke, because then he was definitely a player.
Oh sure,
and
yeah.
that would fit with Iron Man.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Legends Luke was everything at different points of time.
Depending on what book you were reading.
Yep. What about?
Well, what about?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, what about Princess Leia?
No, that's exactly what I was about to say. We haven't talked about.
We need to stop doing this.
Haven't talked about Leia at all. I don't know. I feel like I could see Leia as almost like a Maria Hill kind of character.
Yeah.
But like that seems not important enough. So
right,
maybe like
no, I know what you mean.
an Agent Carter even almost.
Yes.
Maybe that's closer to the mark.
Super underrated in the MCU, by the way.
Or
I'm still mad that show got canceled. specifically because Shield is still on for some reason,
Or like
but Agent Carter got canceled.
A Pepper Potts who ends up having superpowers anyway.
But then gets rid of them for some reason.
Pepper Potts is gonna get ejected into space one day, and then she'll remember she has superpowers.
She'll be kept alive by this extraness. Keep her warm in outer space.
Yeah, Nox, just as a side note, I could talk for hours and hours about how Superman is the stupidest fictional character ever invented. Yep. That's a side note.
That's a whole other stream. You'll note that, actually I was about to say something stupid, so we're not even going to say it. It's fine. But, yeah, with, I think that's, just as a side note, I think that's a smart thing Marvel's done, where I know that Superman-esque characters exist within Marvel, kind of knockoff characters, but they've really kind of kept away from them. Like, even with Thor, they've managed to keep him grounded.
Yeah.
Usually by just kind of making Thor deal with only Thor's stuff, if that makes sense. Like, they just kind of keep him away because he is so overpowered compared to Earth because, he's a god.
Right.
So usually when Thor's around, it's because you're dealing with Thor-level enemies. That's why they kept him out of Civil War, I'm sure. Like, what were Thor and Hulk going to do in Civil War?
Right, yeah. I'm trying to look. I'm going to pull up your thumbnail so I can see if there's anybody.
Anybody we missed? There were so many. I have my thumbnail here somewhere too. Hold on. I got it right here. Vision. We haven't done Vision.
Oh yeah, Vision. Vision is interesting because I don't know. Vision is so different than other heroes. He almost has like a purity about him, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Vision almost is the Force in a way, because he is an Infinity Stone. So it's like his.
In a way, he's almost Bendu.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Because he doesn't have superpowers as much as he is superpowers.
Right. I mean, he's if anything, he comes close to undoing what I just said, where they kind of stay away from that Superman-esque character. But I think the way they do it with Vision is because Vision is an Infinity Stone mixed with a computer artificial intelligence. I think you can just argue that Vision just wouldn't go do something.
Right.
And you almost couldn't hate him for it because he's not a person.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about too, the moment where Vision picks up Thor's hammer.
Yep. Oh, that's still one of the best moments in the MCU to me.
I'm trying to think. Is there any other character that we
still haven't really thought of somebody for T'Challa.
Yeah.
What's weird is he's almost from a Night Brothers sort of society.
Right.
Only he just isn't a bad person.
Yeah.
He's less of a person and more of a stone with legs about Vision. Yeah, I'm assuming. But yeah, Black Panther's kind of a tough one because they don't really have that role yet. Weirdly, Black Panther is almost kind of or he's probably kind of comparable to Kylo, but not Darkseid.
Like royalty
right?
In that way.
Yeah, he has this lineage that brings him these kind of otherworldly powers, and he has issue with the way that his parents have always done things, and his ancestors have always done things, and he wants to change how we did things in the past and that sort of thing.
Before we leave, I need to know who Taserface would be in the Star Wars universe.
Taserface. Well, that's a good question. Maybe what's his name? Ponda, whatever.
Oh yeah.
not Dr.
Right.
Evanson, but
Right. Ponda Baba.
the guy who doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Ponda Baba.
Yeah.
I could kind of see
I
that.
like that.
Who would be who fits Hondo?
I was thinking about Hondo earlier when we were talking about Ant-Man.
Yeah,
but it's still not like a great fit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hondo's so unique.
I love Hondo though.
I love everything about Hondo. Hondo Onaka is just the best thing.
Now I'm hoping that Hondo is somehow going to be in this Resistance show too.
He can live a really long time. It's fine.
Hondo is just the best.
We should just have a Hondo appreciation stream.
Yeah.
Where we just like show clips of Hondo.
We need to tell our friends that we need a Hondo comic.
Yes, our friends.
Yeah. Kevin Scott, get on that, please.
Please, Hondo comics.
I don't know.
What about places? Like, I'm thinking like, well, I guess it's all Earth. There's not really a whole lot of stuff, but there's still special locations like Wakanda or in Guardians. There's different things, but like the place in the first Guardians where it's like an ancient person's head. It's kind of like Mortis.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
What about the Collector?
That's an interesting thing. Is he DJ? Is that?
Is he DJ? Is it just our go-to?
Do we go with that route?
There's a dude in these Darth Vader comics named Dr. Silo.
Oh yeah.
He kind of makes me think of him. He's this dude who he doesn't so much collect as much as he's a scientist. This guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's in it frame or not.
Yeah.
And I'm on a delay. I can't see. I'm looking
good.
at the stream. But he like designs genetic people to like replace the Force, basically. Like he's trying to say that you can't count on the Force, and so he's trying to like use science. But anyway, he just has a lot of weird odds and ends, and I feel like he could be kind of like the Collector.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Asgard, Sarge, you're right. Asgard kind of looks like Alderaan, to be honest.
Yeah.
Similar fates.
Huh. Yeah. Does that make that devil guy in Ragnarok the Death Star?
Yes, it does. That devil guy was like that when he like showed up again at the end. That was one of those things where like I knew it was gonna happen, but I also like from the opening scene I knew he was gonna come back, but then I forgot about him through the series of the movie like being entertaining. I just forgot, and then they were like, Loki, go do the thing, and I was like, yes, this is gonna be great.
That's funny. Anything else? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting near time anyway. Do you all in chat have any kind of questions in general? Maybe we could just round it out now that we've gotten this in. Do you want to? We could talk about Resistance a little bit.
Sure.
If we have any other thoughts on it.
Sure. I mean, my biggest thought about Resistance, and again, I want to spend a lot of time on this in the future, but my biggest thought on this is that I trust Dave Filoni.
Yes, completely agree.
So even though this is going to be different in its animation style and different in its time setting, and things like that, I definitely trust Dave Filoni. The interesting question I kind of have is, are we going to get some sort of Force user in this show? Because like I feel like they could have gone down a route with no Force users in Rebels, and they did. They did not choose to do that. Like they included Kanan and Ezra, despite the fact that Order 66 had happened and everything. And so I don't know who that character would be in Resistance, unless it's going to be.
I feel like in Resistance, though, they could get away with having a Force user because, I don't know, there's just not like the same kind of, people think like the Jedi are myth, right? So it's not
Right.
like you have Force powers, you must therefore become a Jedi and therefore fight for the good guys. Like if you just have Force powers, it would almost be like a don't tell anyone
Right.
kind of scenario.
Hmm.
Because especially with Rebels, not only did they choose to have a Force user, they chose to have a Force user who used to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
Like they really hardcore leaned into that. So then when Ezra had Force powers, like you knew where it was going to go.
Sure.
But what I'm curious about is the real logical next step after Rebels seemed to be the Ahsoka Sabine show.
Mm-hmm.
And this does not appear to be that show. So does it tie in? Like it's Filoni. I feel like this could be a thing where it's like it's about Resistance pilots in the first season, and then the second season it's like, hey, Ahsoka's back. Let's go.
Yeah. So like,
just kidding, LOL.
I'm of two minds of this because I don't think like Filoni left those things open ended for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he would necessarily kind of toss that off to like a book series or something to let it play out.
Right.
I feel like he would want to
unless
do that.
he was gonna do it, right?
I mean, but I think the main thing is I think he wants to do it himself, or I would want him to do it himself, and I don't know that
Right.
he would want to write a book.
Right.
And even like a comic series or something, I don't think would get enough attention for
Right.
that. But yeah, so the issue with this that I see is the timing of it, because like I can see a scenario where they've spent a long time looking for Ezra and Thrawn and just haven't been able to find them. But you know, when you think that you add 30 years, you know, that makes, you know, these characters that much older, and like I don't know how that would work
I kind
together.
of wonder.
I also don't think
I
Ahsoka
guess,
would want to get involved with the Resistance again.
no, I don't think so either. I think she's on whatever quest Ezra came up with. I kind of have two thoughts on it. Either A, you know, they start us out with Resistance pilots, but then we find out Thrawn was involved with the creation of the First Order in that weird nebula place that we see in Lost Stars and we see in Empire's End.
Yeah.
Or I could see it where we eventually get the Ahsoka Sabine TV show, but it's not this TV show, it's the next one.
Yeah.
And this could be something, because I know they've been saying they kind of knew how they wanted Rebels to end for a while, but like that doesn't mean they had that specific ending in mind, right? And they've obviously been working on Star Wars Resistance already for a while. So it could be a case of they came up with that ending because it was the best ending for the show that doesn't necessarily lead into the next series.
Right. I don't know. It's complicated to me because I don't know that they would backtrack like that to go back and then do Ahsoka and Sabine.
Right.
But I mean, it's not like the characters would be too old to be in the sequel trilogy. I mean, and honestly, so like when could this show be? I know we're almost out of time, and we'll talk about this more. But like the First Order, like there's rumors of the First Order as early as Bloodline, and so I mean that's like the formation of the Resistance, and I'm assuming that this is when this show is going to be set, is earlier, and so.
Well, it says.
Did it say in the article?
It says StarWars.com is thrilled to announce the new show. It follows this new character tasked with a top secret mission to spy on the growing threat of the First Order. It will feature, it's set in a time prior to Star Wars The Force Awakens. It will feature BB-8 alongside new characters and appearances by characters such as Poe Dameron and Captain Phasma. So it has to fit somewhere between 6 years before The Force Awakens, which is Bloodline, because it's the first time anyone's heard of the First Order.
Right.
And It's really when the Resistance gets started too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of Bloodline. Is they have all those supplies. What are we going to do with it?
Yep.
And Princess Leia starts the Resistance.
Right.
So there is no Resistance and there is no First Order until 6 years before the Force Awakens.
Right.
So it cannot be any earlier than that. I don't think it will take place like right before, because I don't think they're going to want to go into the Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So assuming a 4-season show again, it could be set 2 years after Bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a pretty narrow window in which it could be set.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's kind of my thing too, is that there's not a lot of space to like play around with. I mean, with the Clone Wars, in terms of like timeline, it had to happen, over those couple of years between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But
there's also so much to talk about.
Yeah, but there's so much. Like, I mean, it's a galaxy worth of content to cover, and so you can make a larger series about it, even if it doesn't fit into but just a small amount of time. I don't feel like this can be that way, but it also can't be like Rebels, because Rebels could have taken place anytime between episodes 3 and 4, and there's a big gap there too.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't know. I guess. I mean, we can ask the question of if it will get to that at all, and I can't see Filoni wanting to drop it, but I can see this being a season 4 of Resistance type of tie-in to Ezra and Sabine and Ahsoka, especially because the press release said, like, oh, I want to tell like dogfight stories and things like that, and so I'm thinking about like the Stackpole X-Wing novels again. So I don't know.
Especially with Poe Dameron.
Yeah. So I mean, it could be the case where it's a slow burn that eventually ties in, but I don't know, because I both think that Dave Filoni wouldn't drop this altogether, but also that this doesn't sound like an easy tie-in there.
But then again, if you had told me Rebels was going to tie into the Mortis trilogy, I would have told you that was going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't do it.
I mean, I think you're right about that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that was season 4 of Rebels, though. That wasn't season 1 of Rebels.
Right, yep.
And so, like, I can see this being season 4 of Resistance being different than season 1 of Resistance.
Right.
In that regard.
No, I completely agree. Sarge asks how we feel about anime Star Wars. So anime Star Wars has been done somewhat. There's a Star Wars: The Clone Wars had a kind of a precursor show. There was Star Wars Clone Wars, which was a micro series on Cartoon Network that came out in 2005, just before Revenge of the Sith came out. They were like 4-minute long episodes. And it was done by the same guy that did Samurai Jack and Powerpuff Girls, which I suppose is not strictly anime, but it's similar to that. Yeah, Django's got it. I am the wrong person to ask because I hate Eastern animation a lot. I don't care for the aesthetic at all. Like, I can objectively tell you, like, it's well done. I can tell you that the animation is smooth. I can tell you that they worked hard on it. I just have never liked the way that looks. And if Lei Quinn is still here, she's going to adamantly disagree with me. But honestly, I can't stand Eastern character art style.
Yeah.
But Django may feel differently about that.
I mean, so I have a hard time with that art style as well. I think there are exceptions to that for me that stand out in my mind and things that I enjoy. So I don't know that it will be like prohibitive for me, but also right now Disney XD's house style is more of an anime style, but I wouldn't call it out and out anime either.
Right.
And I mean, and really, if you look at the different Star Wars shows so far, they have, Death Note's good, Sarge. It's really good. It's on Netflix now too, at least here. Anyway, but like, it's always been the house style. So like, the Clone Wars was Cartoon Network's house style at the time.
Yep.
Rebels was
it's kind of a blend of the two house styles, really.
Right, I think so. And so I feel like this is just a move into, like, I'm more interested in the difference between 2D and 3D, honestly, than the difference between.
I think this is going to look very similar to Star Wars Forces of Destiny.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't care for the animation style of that either. And it's totally an aesthetics thing for me. Because, like, even saying, like, you've only watched Death Note, I'm sure Death Note has a fantastic story, and, like, what I'm saying has really no commentary on the story. It's how it looks. Yeah. It's straight the aesthetic of how it looks. It could be the greatest story in the world. I still wouldn't like how it looks. So that, like, what I'm saying has nothing to do with story content. But it's not gonna keep me from watching it at all. I'm still going to enjoy the story for what the story is. I can enjoy the story of Star Wars Clone Wars for what it is. That just means I don't necessarily want to get posters of it or get it on a t-shirt, basically.
I mean, I think the price of it has to be a motivation here for the studio.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But
I also kind of wonder if going the 2D route and making it perhaps a little bit easier / cheaper, if, they've announced a live action show, they've announced all of these movies. I kind of wonder if we might be moving, and they've been talking about, Bob Iger has been quoted saying there's all kinds of shows in development. I wonder if Star Wars Resistance is Dave Filoni's current project, and he's going to kind of J.J. Abrams it and get it started in that first season.
Hand it off.
And then in 2 years, hop over to the Ahsoka Sabine TV show and have 2 cartoons going.
Maybe so. I definitely think there's space for it, an audience for it.
Yeah.
But we've been kind of expecting this Resistance show for a while, though.
Yeah, they announced the title for this a while ago. We just didn't know what it was. And there have been rumors, because obviously animation is done so far ahead of time. There have been rumors of a Resistance TV show for a while. And it makes sense. It makes sense to want to start telling new stories in that time period. Yeah. Especially as we get closer to episode 9. This is a way to get people excited about episode 9. And I think once episode 9 is out, the expanded universe is going to change radically.
I think so.
I think we're going to have a flood of novels, especially because I don't think we're going to get episode 10 for a while. I think all these announced films are not going to be that. I honestly think we will get episode 10 someday. I just don't think it's going to be soon.
No. I mean, and honestly, I kind of like this idea, too, because part of the problems that some people had with the Clone Wars was that the TV show was retconning existing canon at the time. And if this TV show comes first, then it allows them to kind of create this sandbox and then let the other stuff come in and play around in it.
Right.
But yeah, I'm interested to see the animation style. I don't want to say that it's a no-go, but I also don't think they would lean too far into. I mean, because like strict anime, I don't feel like that matches Dave Filoni's storytelling style either.
Right. Well, and I think to the extent that StarWars.com said anime, I think there could be like saying anime, and we're gonna get like a Forces of Destiny kind of style. Look.
But we'll talk about.
It's not. But yeah.
Yeah. But we'll
we're at time here.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this several times, I'm sure, between now and when this is supposed to debut in the fall.
Oh yeah.
And we've got some other stuff planned here and there for the next couple of weeks. We're a little under a month now, or I guess just over a month, right at a month until the solo film. So.
We're reading Last Shot, the tie-in novel.
Yep. So we got some plans for the next couple of weeks.
We were going to talk about the novel actually next week, but we might, if more comes out about the show, we might talk about it next week. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how the next couple of days go.
Right. But make sure you stay tuned. Again, while you're here, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. There's no reason not to. Hit that notification button, and you can get push notifications when we go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays now. Again, we're only 2 episodes into this, but if you haven't caught it yet, Yoda Bauer is doing streams on Tuesdays of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic,
Yep.
the RPG game, which are really fun, especially because we're making her do a dark side playthrough as much as she hates that.
And I don't like it very much.
Um,
Yeah, and where we left off, I was on Dantooine, and I was about to face Juhani. I was about to finish my Jedi trials. So we're gonna do that, and then run around on Dantooine and mess with a bunch of farmers, and then move on to our first planet.
We'll murder all of those farmers with Force lightning. So come back and watch that because it'll be fun.
I might not hate that as much as I've hated that part of the game.
But we've also got other things going on. My Let's Play of Star Wars Bounty Hunter is still going on Sunday, so you can check that out. We also have, as always, other videos. We got content going up on our blog site. You can catch us on our forums, on our Twitter, and our Facebook. So make sure you're following us in all of the places for all of the things.
Yep.
We are probably going to take a very brief hiatus from Twitter activity until after we've both seen of Infinity War.
I'll have seen it on Friday, so sometime on Friday I will at least be on the Port Haven handle, but it will probably still be less active.
So if we go a bit radio silent, that's only why, because we don't trust Twitter. We don't trust Twitter.
Right.
It's not that we don't trust you guys, but we definitely don't trust Twitter.
Trust Twitter. Yep.
So, yeah. Anyway, but make sure you're following us on all the things. And I think that's going to wrap it up for us today.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.
I'll see you, hopefully a lot of you Tuesday.
Do we want to shout out people in the chat before we go?
Oh, yeah. Sarge is here. Sarge is a content creator. I'm Stephen Donnelly's biggest fan. Voltix does streaming. You should click on him. Who's still here? Like Quinn, if you want to scroll up and find her, she does it. Bare Naked Gaming is a streamer. I'm trying to see who all else was in here. Who was a content. I think that's it on the content creator. But if I missed you and you're here, go ahead and shout out. And no, Max is not streaming tonight, Stephen. He's at a convention.
Yep. But apart from that, that's it for us today, and we will see you this time next week, same time, same place. Bye.
Bye.